Welcome to the God Put Me Up on Game podcast with Kristen R. Harris, where God shares all the good game because He wants you to win. This is the podcast for winners. Hey winners, what's going on? Thank you guys so much for coming down to the winner circle for another episode of God Put Me Up on Game. It is the season of gratitude, but you guys know I've been telling you all year, all show, as long as we have been on the air, that I am thankful and appreciative for your listenership, for your support, for your shares, for your comments, for your reviews. So it goes without saying that I am thankful for each and every one of you. Listen, happy belated Thanksgiving. I pray that everyone had an amazing Thanksgiving. I know that it was probably a lot different for many of you this year, but we're going to get through this, you guys. We are going to make it, and things are going to get better. So keep on pushing, keep your head held high, and stay safe. Okay, guys, listen, this thing is nothing to play with. So make sure you are masking up, you're socially distancing, and you're not congregating in those large crowds, because it's not the business right now. Okay, we want to get through this, and it's going to take an effort from all of us to combat this and to make it through to the other side. So I don't have many announcements today. I want to go ahead and get into this good game because this may take a little longer than usual. I'm going to try to move through this pretty quickly. But as I told you guys on last week, I celebrated my 40th birthday on November 24th. So I am officially a part of the 40-40 Club. Shout out to the Lord for keeping me even this year. We all know that this has been a very, very challenging year for many. And so I'm celebrating the fact of just making it through this year, but even greater than that, these 40 years of life. So I have had an amazing birthday. If you don't follow me on social media, come find me. You can see not all of it, but you can see some of the things that transpired and some of the blessings that I received. I'm not going to go into it on here. You got to come find me on social media, Kristen R. Harris, wherever you are plugged in. But one thing I wanted to share today, and I do realize that this episode is coming out on a Saturday or Sunday, depending on when I put it out. It's not our normal day of Wednesday, but I just was not prepared between my birthday being on Tuesday and Thanksgiving being on Thursday. I just was not ready and I hadn't pre-prepared. But today I want to share with you guys 40 game nuggets. And these are just some things that I have learned over the last 40 years of my life. Real quick, I just want to go down this list. They're in no particular order. They're just kind of listed in the way that they came to me. Some of them are a little more serious than others. Some are, just kind of little fun things that I learned along the way. But I just want to share this. And by all means, this list is not conclusive, because I have learned so many things. There's so much game I have garnered. Many of these things that you'll hear on this list, you probably have already heard on the podcast, because they are some things that I live by. And so let's just get into it. Like I said, I'm just going to go right down the list, and I probably have a cute story for every one of these things. My friends threw me an intimate hibachi dinner last Saturday for my birthday, and they played this really cute game. I loved it. So it was a handful of them there, and each one of them had submitted words to me. Like they said something, they wrote something to me, and I had to guess which person it was. And so with each one, as I was guessing, I had a story to tell. And they were like, girl, you are the queen of stories. I'm like, duh, I'm a writer. I'm a storyteller. So if I go off on a tangent and I tell you a story, just listen, okay? Because, hey, that's where the good game is. It's in those stories. That's where I learn these things, all right? So let's hop right into this good game. I'm going to try not to keep you guys too long. All right, so number 1. Never apologize for your tears. And I believe this one made it to the top of the list. Number 1, as I begin to pin this list just the other day, because I had witnessed a few people who were telling stories and they started to shed tears. And the very first thing they said was, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to do that." And I realized that we are always apologizing for our tears, but your tears are literally liquid prayers. If you have not, and it's a shameless plug, if you have not tuned into the Empower Moments podcast, you want to go find that podcast. I did share an Empower Moments podcast entitled Liquid Prayers, and I talked about how those liquid prayers are what sometimes we can't even put into words. As it says in Romans 8, we don't even know how we should pray or what we ought to pray, but the Holy Spirit makes intercession on our behalf. And I am a firm believer that even your tears, those tears are sowing into your future blessings. They're prayers that are watering the ground. So even when you're going through, whether it's tears of joy or tears of pain, never apologize for that. You don't have to apologize to anyone, especially people who know and love you, for your tears. You don't have to apologize for crying because you're sad or you're hurt or you're pained or you're in anguish. And you certainly should not have to apologize when those tears are tears of joy or tears of triumph. So don't apologize for that. And if you feel like you must apologize, I would implore you to check your circle. Who are you sharing with? Who are you opening up? Because I do not believe in just being vulnerable and bare with just any old body, because you got to make sure that people are going to protect you and cover you. So you have to be careful with that. So number one is never apologize for your tears. Number two, slow down and really see people. I think I've really learned this lesson this year. And as I said, a lot of these are things that I probably knew years ago, but maybe they're resurfacing now, or they're just things that are just always in the forefront of my mind. And so when it comes to slowing down and really seeing people, 2020 this year has forced me to do that. In fact, on Thanksgiving, as my family was standing in a circle, we have a tradition before we bless the food, we stand in a circle and everyone just shares what they've been grateful for over this last year since the last Thanksgiving. And for me, that was one of the things at the top of my list. It was to really, I was grateful that God had really helped me to slow down and see people. Like this pandemic helped me to do that. Sometimes we put a lot of emphasis on things, and I'm not materialistic by any means, but sometimes we can get so caught up in not just material things, but just things that keep us busy and going here and going there and getting our to-do list done, that sometimes we just don't even see people. We don't see people who are right in front of us, who need us, who are hurting, who may just need an encouraging word, who may need a hug, who may need a phone call. And so I really encourage you to slow down and see people. And honestly, I had to pray for that. I had to ask God to help me to see people who were around me. So that's number two, slow down and really see people. Number three, it doesn't matter what people think. It does not matter what people think. I am an ex-people pleaser, so I'm speaking from experience, guys. You can get so caught up in worrying about what people are going to say, how they're going to receive it, what they may do, that you will never move on the things that God told you to do. It does not matter what people think. Your goal in life, and I think I shared this on the last episode, is to please God. If you're not pleasing God, then you're trying to please man, and that's out of order. So we want to make sure that we're not getting caught up in what people think about us. We're not getting caught up in how they feel, or even projecting how they may feel. A lot of times, and I know somebody is listening to this because I keep coming back to this. Sometimes God has given us things to do, but what we've done is set it up in our mind that it's not going to work, or people aren't going to like it, or they're going to judge me, or they're going to say, who does she think she is? Does she think she's all of that? Or who is she to come up here and say that? I know I've dealt with all of those things, but we must cut that out. I speak against the spirit of people pleasing right now in the name of Jesus. And I command you to do the things that God has called you to do. So number 3, it does not matter what people think. Number 4, stop apologizing for not being what others want you to be. Goes right back into number 3, people pleasing. So many of you, maybe you're not living the dream that your parents have for you, or it doesn't even have to be a profession. You know, I had to tell my mom when she came over, we were talking, and my sister and I, we got together and we ordered Thanksgiving dinner this year. We did not want to cook. I'm not a big Thanksgiving cooker. The idea of standing on my feet for hours on end to make a feast is not fun to me. It just doesn't sound fun. And I just feel like my time is better served in other ways. And so we paid for this meal, and my mom, I could tell she's a caterer. So let me just say that she's a caterer, and she didn't have time to cook this year. So she did not do the family dinner, but I could tell that she was just kind of like, this is different. She wasn't necessarily feeling us going that route. But as I told her, I'm not you, and this is not what I desire to do. And so in her mind, I could tell she's like, my children should be cooking dinner, but that's not what we want to do. And I'm not going to apologize for it because it's just not who I am. And so that's a real small example, but you may be dealing with something else. I've heard people say how their parents wanted them to be doctors and they chose instead to be creatives. I remember when I walked away from my government job, my good government job, as the old people would say, and I said, I'm not doing this anymore. I know that God has a different plan for me. And my family, my father, I remember him. He was like, are you crazy? You're leaving your benefits. You're doing this. You're doing that. So you have to stop apologizing for not being what other people want you to be. As long as, again, as you and God are good, keep on pressing. Number 5. This one is funny. I've learned over the last, I'll say 15 years, that's how long I've been married, that one of the best perks of being married is getting in that bed and warming up my feet, my cold feet between my husband's legs. Okay. Number 6, everything doesn't have to be picture perfect. Everything does not have to be picture perfect. And I've learned this even as I was looking at pictures just last night from my birthday celebration, from me turning 40 and the things that people did for me. I noticed that a lot of the pictures were just candid shots that people caught of me, like living in the moment. And I'm so happy that they did, because you can see so much joy on my face. You see me just dancing and living in the moment. But me, I'm a person who, I stage pictures. I'm like, everyone look this way. 1, 2, 3, stop. Oh my goodness, you blinked. You looked that way. You did this. You did that. The picture is messed up. And so in my mind, if it's not picture perfect, it's not picture worthy. But that is so untrue. And I'm not just talking about pictures. I'm talking about the things that God has called you to do in life. Remember, we talked about this on the podcast. And if you did not hear this episode, you need to go back and find it. But done is better than perfect. Done is better than perfect. And many times you just have to do the thing. You just got to step out there and make it happen. And you perfect it as you go. You grow as you go. Number 7. Normalize luxury in your life. Normalize luxury in your life. That is something I have literally just learned this year in 2020. I think I saw a meme. There was this meme floating around. It said, Black women, normalize luxury in your life. And at first, and I think I may have said this on the podcast, I'm going to be honest, y'all. I talk so much. I don't know where I have these conversations. But so if you're hearing this again, just bear with me. But I was telling someone that when I first saw that meme, it irritated me. But I saved it. I took a screenshot and put it in my phone, but it irritated me. And I had to ask myself, why are you so irritated by this? But what I realized in the coming days and through prayer and some soul searching was that it irritated me because it was something I needed to do that I was not doing. And so for me, normalizing luxury, even going back to us buying that dinner for Thanksgiving, to me, that's normalizing luxury in my life. It's freeing up my time. My time is, for me, is not best spent in the kitchen for hours on end cooking a Thanksgiving dinner. That's not spending my time well. That does not mean that that's not for you, because you got to make it up in your mind. You have to make those own determinations for yourself. But normalizing luxury for me means that I am freeing up space to do the things that I really want to do. I am creating room in my life for other people to do things for me so that I don't have to be bogged down. Just because you can do everything, just because you can do anything, let me rephrase that. Just because you can do anything does not mean that you need to do everything. And so this goes from your family life on down to your business. Those of you who are business owners, that solopreneur life, it ain't fun, y'all. And I know we got to do it in the beginning until we really get our footing, but don't stay stuck there. So normalize luxury in your life. Number 8, poverty is a state of mind. And that's funny. Again, I didn't put these in any kind of order. I just typed them up as they came to me, but it's making sense now. You'll see that some of these kind of just piggyback off the other. But that really goes back to number 7. Poverty is a state of mind. And so many times we have lack even in our thinking. And so I can tell you there was some really rough years for me. When I look at 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018, all 4 of those years, they were really, really, really tough. Okay. And so what I see now looking back was that my mindset needed to shift. There were some things that I was hoping to shift in my pocketbook, but beyond my pockets, my mind needed to shift, because if your mind changes, as a man thinketh, so is he. And so many of you are lacking even in your thinking. And until you change your mindset, you can do all the work in the world and you will not see a change in your situation, because you're still thinking with a poverty mindset. You don't even think that you are worthy of the blessings. You don't even realize that you are heir to a king who owns the 10,000 cattle on a hill. You got to change your mindset so that you are not stuck in that place. Number 9, it is imperative to operate on your level. It is imperative to operate on your level. What does that mean? There's levels to this, okay? And I know that with social media, especially, we can look at where someone is and what they're doing, and we look at their level and we feel like we're not where we're supposed to be. But you got to be great. You got to operate on your level. You got to be appreciative on your level. You got to thank God for what he has given you at this space, even though you may aspire to go to the next space. You got to be committed on your level. So many people are trying to get to the next level, trying to get elevated and promoted, but you haven't even offered commitment on your level. It is imperative to operate on your level. Number 10, chew the meat and spit out the bones. This is one of my favorites. And I may have mentioned it here on the podcast or not, but chew the meat and spit out the bones. That is an old saying that we've probably heard many times, where people are basically telling you that you can take information from people, but you got to know the part to keep and the part to throw away, because everything may not be applicable to you. And I always challenge people, because what I've learned in recent years is that chewing the meat and spitting out the bones may even look different for people, as if it may vary from person to person. And what I mean by that is, for me, you may be able to eat a chicken bone and chew the meat and spit out the bones. You may take a chicken leg and eat it and take all the meat off and throw the bone away. I'm not eating that at all. I don't even eat chicken. I'm a pescatarian, okay? So I don't eat chicken. So for me, chewing the meat and spitting out the bones may be that I don't even want that particular plate. I got to figure out what I can sit down and eat. You got to learn how to take what is applicable to you, take what you can apply to your life, take what you can actually implement, and throw the rest of the stuff away. Don't get caught up in, oh, I can't receive anything from this person because I don't like the way they live, or I don't like who they are, I don't like what they say. You can learn something from everyone, but you have to be careful. You have to have the discernment to know how to chew the meat and spit out the bones, okay? Number 11, and this has been a whole episode on this podcast. So if you struggle with this, you need to go back and listen to the episode. But this is, don't trade your deadline for God's timing. This is so key, guys. Timing is everything. Timing is everything. And I know that it's, we get impatient because we're waiting on things to happen. We feel like God made us a promise and we're not seeing it manifest. But do not trade your deadline for God's timing. Let me tell you something. I remember, and I actually put that quote on my 2017 vision board. And I had all these things on this board that I wanted to accomplish. And I did none of them that year. I think I may have accomplished one thing. Everything else is still happening. It has happened in years after that, or it's still happening. But guess what? God said, you said this was 2017. I gave you the vision, but that didn't mean it was coming to pass this year. But don't you dare trade your deadline for my time. And so when you get to December 31st, those of you who even created vision boards for 2020, and you thought that things were going to happen the way that they were going to happen, and you thought this was your year, perfect vision, and you look up and you like, God, yeah, it was vision, all right, but it just wasn't what I saw, and things haven't happened. Don't trade your deadline for God's timing. His timing is supreme. His timing is what is best for you. All right. Number 12. Something interesting I've learned along the way is that too much information is sometimes just as bad as too little information. What do you mean by that, Kristen? What I mean is that sometimes you have become, or you've turned into an information hoarder, and you're just sitting down, you're soaking up you're going to all these webinars, you're going to all these podcasts, you're reading all these books, you're doing all of these things, and you don't do anything. And until you utilize what you've already been given, you can't take in anymore. You can't, at this point, it's just like kind of like the law of diminishing returns. You've reached your maximum capacity, and there's no output. You're putting everything in, but there's no output. You're not using anything. And sometimes you'll get to a space where what you take in doesn't even make sense to you because you're not ready to use it. You haven't even reached that level because you got all this other information that you have not employed. So too much information is sometimes just as bad as too little information. Stop being an information hoarder. And I am not telling you to not learn new things, and because knowledge is power. What I'm telling you is, if you have not done anything with the information, let me give you an example. Those of you who are trying to start businesses and that type of thing, it is great to research and to get information, and all that getting understanding. Okay. That's what the word says. So it's great to get the information, but at some point you have to take that information and act on it, because otherwise you're just full of all this information and you never push it out. You got all the input and no output. Okay. Number 12, you have everything you need to get to the next level. It kind of ties in with number 12. You have everything you need to get to the next level. If you're trying to figure out, how come I have not progressed? How come I have not accelerated? Sometimes it is just not the time. But if you really take a look at what you've been doing, have you really tapped into everything that God has placed in you? Have you really, exhausted your resources? Because I am a firm believer that when you've reached the end, God will level you up. When you've done everything there is to do on that level, then it's time to go to the next level. Number 14, the shortest pencil is longer than the longest memory. I actually took that out of one of Mark Batterson's books. I'm pretty sure I've said that on the podcast before, but that's only to remind you to write it down. That's write the vision, make it plain. And there's a lot of things that God is going to give you over this next year. For many of you, he has already been giving you downloads, but you have not been keeping record of them. How do you expect to remember them? How do you expect to know when things have actually happened? And so I'm going to implore you to start journaling. And hey, this is a great part right here for me to put in my shameless plug. The God put me up on Game Prayer Journal. I officially announced it. I told you guys I would, but I officially announced it publicly on my birthday on Tuesday, and it is available for pre-order. So, you can find it at bit.ly/GPMUOG prayer. But I will also put a link in the show notes. You guys want to go and order that. It is officially coming out in January, but I am doing pre-orders right now. So remember, the shortest pencil is longer than the longest memory. God wants you to be able to remember the things that he's giving to you. Number 15, crossing things off list is empowering. This is, oh my goodness, this is me, okay? Kind of goes into just writing things down. Those lists, when you create your to-do list, those of you who feel like you're all over the place, maybe you need to start making to-do lists, because one is empowering. When you begin to just cross those things off the list, you feel so accomplished, and it helps to keep you organized. Number 16, be realistic, but have enough faith to not play it safe. Now that right there is a juggling act, and the only way you're going to be able to do it is with the help of God. Be realistic, but have enough faith to not play it safe. So there are some things that we definitely have to be realistic about when you're making plans and when you're trying to do things. But you also have to be so connected with God that He shows you in the areas where He's trying to stretch your faith, where it may not look a certain way, but He's able to still show up and perform. And again, that's a tough space to walk. That's a tough line to walk. And you're only going to be able to do it with guidance of the Spirit. Number 17, it's mandatory to start your day with God and fill up on His word. Let me rephrase that. It's mandatory for me to start my day and fill up on His word. And on those times when I don't, when a blow comes to my day, I'm unprepared and it knocks the wind out of me. Why? Because I haven't filled up. So imagine something coming to knock me down and I'm empty. And because I'm empty, I immediately go down. I fall to my knees. I buckle. I get shaky. But when I'm full of that word of God, the things that are coming at me, they don't even stand a chance because I'm already prepared. And so it's imperative to start your day that way. Number 18, seek God in all things. Seek God in all things. I've learned over the years that there is nothing that God is not concerned about as it pertains to me. I will go to Him with some of the stupidest things I think are stupid, right? And I think about it, I'm like, God, are you even concerned with that? But He'll show me, He'll smile at me and show me that He is. And I've been sharing this story over the last few days, just even about my birthday. You know, everyone who knows me knows I like to look cute. I like to dress nice. Dressing is one of my things. And so as I was preparing, what I was going to wear for my birthday, because every time someone asks me about it, they're like, what are your plans? My answer was, what, in this pandemic, what can you plan? I don't know. But what I do know is I'm going to be cute. And so I really didn't even have time to put thoughts into outfits. I just kind of ordered some things, but the way everything came together, and I know it's because I literally said, you know what, God, I don't have time for this. Work this thing out. And I didn't even receive boots I was waiting on for a particular outfit. And I didn't get it bent out of shape because I had already told God, work it out. And everything worked out so perfectly. And I mean, I was fly and cute the whole weekend, not to toot my own horn, but I was, right? And so that's just an example of just seeking God in all things. He's concerned with the really small, tiny details of your life, all the way up to the big stuff, the health things and the family things and the financial things. He's concerned with all of that. So seek Him and allow Him, give Him that space. And honestly, that's how you build your relationship. That's how you come to really know and trust Him, by letting Him into even the small parts. Number 19, in business, don't fret over those hard moments. Listen, I am an entrepreneur. I understand those highs and lows, those ebbs and flows, those peaks and valleys, right? And when you have those valleys and those ebbs and those lows, it is easy to get discouraged and be like, why in the world am I doing this? But let me encourage you to not get off track and not to fret over those hard moments. If you did it before, you can do it again. If you made some money in your business, if you saw your business make $10,000 in 1 month, guess what? You can do it again. You already have the information. You have the processes. You have even the experience. You have the benefit of knowing what worked and what didn't. Don't fret. Just tell yourself, I can do this again. I can do it again. Okay. So pull yourself up out of that and keep moving. Number 20, the love of money is the root of all evil. I know we hear this scripture quoted all the time, and I would hear it and not even realize that it applied to me. And so I wasn't acting like it was everything, like money was everything when I didn't have it. But when I didn't have it, I was stressed out and despondent. And it was almost like I couldn't carry on in any area of my life. And so evil doesn't have to be me going out doing evil stuff. Like it says, the love of money is the root of all evil. It doesn't mean I have to go out and steal from someone. It doesn't mean that I'm going out and murdering people and robbing people because I need their money or whatever, or I'm stepping on people to get what I deserve, what I think I deserve. But it can be the root of all can be evil demonic forces oppressing me. So here it is. I'm stuck. I was stuck in those moments because I'm thinking that my success and my value is tied to these monetary things. I'm going to leave that there. I'm going to let y'all do what you want to do with that, okay? Number 21, music is my therapy. Music is therapy. I've learned that music is therapy. This year, as I've said before, 2020 has been full of so many ups and downs and so much stuff going on. For me, I've learned that music is therapy for me. The days that I've had really rough moments, or at the end of a long week when it was just very challenging, I'll come into my room, I'll cut on my music, and I'll just stand in my mirror and dance and have a concert and a party. And it was so therapeutic for me. And at one point I said, Kristen, you got to know that when you need this, come and do this. Even if it's every day, spend you some time in this mirror dancing and just listening to your music and feeling it. And so music may not be your therapy, but I encourage you to find what your therapy is. If your therapy is that you need to go and see a therapist, then that's what you need to do. If your therapy is sitting down reading a book, what is your self-care? What is good for your mental health and stability? Number 22, everyone is creative. It pains me when I hear people say that I'm not creative. We were all made in his image. You are creative. The God who you were made in his image is an all creative God. He created all things. So everyone is creative. Number 23, your words carry weight. I have never realized up until maybe like the last 2 years, and I know I've heard this scripture, the power of life and death is in your tongue, but these past 2 years, I've literally seen how my words have shaped my life and the life of my loved ones. I've seen how my words have become just manifestations and formed into things that I spoke out of my mouth. Most of them being life-giving, a few of them being some death. So we got to watch what we say. Number 24, comparing yourself to others will steal your joy. That's self-explanatory, y'all. Stop comparing yourself. Again, we are all on our own journey, and spending your time looking over at somebody else's lane, at their test, one, it distracts you from the work that God has given you. But two, it also creates this false sense of comparison. Like you begin, and it does. It steals your joy because you cannot be focused on what God is doing in your life because you are so focused on what's happening in someone else's. Number 25, your network is supposed to work for the people who are a part of it. Your network is supposed to work for the people who are a part of it. I know we often hear your network determines your net worth. I love it. However, many of us have networks that are not doing any work for the people who are in it. When you think of network, when you take that word and break it down, the word net is literally an intertwined web. So these are people who are intertwined and interconnected. The work part, that web should be working for the people who are in it. So people who are in your network, if you cannot offer anything to them in the form of resources or help or information and vice versa, it's not really a network because it's not working for the people who are in the net. Look, guys, I'm trying to follow this list I have over here. What number am I on? Okay. Number 26. Everywhere God can invite you to is somewhere you belong. And I really thought about this as I talked about that networking and I have in parentheses in my notes, networking. Years ago, I actually did a workshop talk at a conference, and it was entitled Networking. And I remember I had gotten this opportunity, but I remember being there feeling like, oh my goodness, I am way out of my league. Even as I sat in the room, like some of the people, they had never heard of me, because you could tell that a lot of them knew each other. They were in the same network, right? They were connected. They were in that same web, and they knew each other. And so they sat and looked at me, and I know I was giving them some bomb information, but they just kind of looked at me like, you don't belong here. And I remember walking away from that feeling so defeated. And I thank God that here in 2020, I'm a different person. Again, God has done an overhaul on my thinking. And so anywhere that God invites me to is somewhere I belong. Even if I don't think I belong there, even if other people don't think I belong there, anywhere that he invites you to is somewhere that you belong. So you go in there and you sit at that table and you act like you deserve to be there, like you were called there, because you were. And many times, and what's about to happen, let me just say this, let me prophesy over some of you guys. What's about to happen is you are about to sit at some tables that you never could have fathomed. You could not have imagined. Doors are about to begin to open for you in places that you may be unqualified for, that your name has never even been in that circle. But God is about to just do some supernatural things for you and grant you some access and some favor. You walk in that room like you deserve to be there. Number 27, budget your time better than you budget your money. I've said this on the show before. Budget your time better than you budget your money. You can get that money back. As I said before with that business one, even if you went bankrupt, but you made $100,000 one year and the next year you had zero, you can figure out how to get that money back. But what you will never get back is that 24 hours of time that you wasted on yesterday. It's gone, and it's gone forever. So budget your time better than you budget your money. For me, that means that I have to sit down each day, each night. I think I shared this on the podcast before on divine order in your family or your house or something. But I sit down and I plan out my day for the next day. I have to budget my hours each day. What am I going to be doing from 9 a.m. until 10 a.m.? What am I doing from 11 a.m. to 12:30? I have that written down in my planner each day. I do it every night before I go to bed so that I am not wasting time. Which takes us to number 28. Time spent worrying about who didn't show up is time wasted. Stop worrying about who is not celebrating you, who's not showing up, who's not doing this, who's not supporting you. It's time wasted. It's also disrespectful to those who do show up. Celebrate those people. I see so many. I can think right now of a particular person on social media who is always talking about people who aren't loyal and people who walked out of her life and people who did this and people who did that. And I'm going to be like, girl, what about the people who are here? What about us? We support you. We love you. Okay. So time spent worrying about who didn't show up is time wasted. Number 29, you can't make time for anything. And I say this, and I need you to hear me, because I hear us say all the time, oh, I'm going to make time and do this. I'm going to make time and do that. You don't have the ability to make time. You've been given the time that you've been given. And what is setting you up for failed results is the expectation that you can make time. You don't have that ability. The ability that you have is to create space in the time that you've already been given. You've already been allocated 24 hours in each day. You don't get to make any time. You don't get to make a 25th hour, a 26th hour. You don't get to do that. That would be great if we could, but we don't have that power. So instead of making time, change your verbiage. It goes back to your words carry weight. That's why you're being unsuccessful, because you keep saying, I'm going to make time to write my book. I'm going to make time to start my business. I'm going to make time to start working out. I'm going to make time to spend more time with my kids. No, you don't get to make time. You make room in the time that you've already been given. And then you'll see success. So instead of saying you're going to make time, say you're going to make space in your schedule. Which brings me to number 30. We make room in our schedule for what and who we want. So this is two ways. One, if you have not been seeing the results in various areas, you make time in your schedule. You make room in your schedule. We're changing our confession. You make room in your schedule for what you want and who you want. And vice versa is other people around you. They make space in their schedule for who and what they want. So if you're feeling like an afterthought, if you're feeling like they don't care, maybe it's time to evaluate. But I will say this as a caveat. This is a pandemic, okay? So do not hold people to as stringent expectations as you would on a normal basis, because everybody is dealing with something right now. Number 31, under promise and over deliver. I use this a lot in business, but this can be applicable even to your family life and your personal life. Under promise and over deliver. I had to learn this with my children because I felt like, there was a lot of times I was making these promises and I meant well, but again, my time, because I was trying to do too many things and I wasn't making room in my schedule, I would overpromise and underdeliver. And that created areas of distrust and frustration. So in any area, you want to underpromise and overdeliver. So, you give them a promise, which is, basic expectations. You want to at least meet the expectations, but then you overdeliver and you exceed those expectations. Number 32, God is polite. He speaks to everyone. I'm pretty sure I've said this on the podcast. If not, I know it's a whole chapter in the book, God Put Me Up on Game, the very first volume 1. There is a whole chapter on this, but I want you guys to know that God is always speaking. I hear people often say, God is not speaking right now. No, God is always speaking, and he speaks to everyone. So perhaps you missed it because you're distracted. You weren't listening. And if you're distracted and there's a lot of things going on, I always tell people to fast. Sometimes when we're seeking an answer, we can't hear through all the noise, and fasting really helps to cut off that noise. The other thing is that maybe you're just not listening. Go back to the last thing God told you to do, because he's not going to keep giving you information and you haven't done anything with the information that you already have. It goes back to whatever number that was we talked about, too much information. God has already given you instructions. Go back to the last thing that you did not do, and perhaps once you do that, you'll get the answer to the next one. Okay. Number 33, make new friends, but keep the old. And as the old Girl Scout song go, one is silver and the other's gold. This has definitely been a lesson I've learned in the last maybe 7 or 8 years, because I was team no new friends. Let me just be honest with you guys. Not because I didn't want new people in my life, but just because I thought that it was very exhausting to start over from the beginning with people learning who you are, when I've been walking with some people 20 plus, 30 plus years, and they know me. And I know them, and it's not all that work, but I will say that God has added some very valuable new relationships in my life. And so I want to encourage those of you who may be team no new friends to just consider allowing God to place new people in your life. I do believe that every time God is about to do something new in your life, he does bring new people. All right. Number 34. We're almost to the end, guys. And I was trying to hurry up. I wanted this to be over in 45 minutes. So let me move faster. Let's see. Number 34. If you reach just one, you have completed your assignment. Those of you who are out here doing work, who are impacting lives, sometimes it feels discouraging when you feel like, you're only reaching one person, or you may have a podcast. You're like, it's only 3 people listening. I check my listens every day and it's going up one person at a time. Or maybe you wrote a book and it didn't sell the way you thought, or you released a product and you only had 100 sales. Listen, as much as we all want to have those numbers, we all want to do numbers. Great. Aspire to that. I am not taking away that goal from you. But what I do want to encourage you to keep in the forefront of your mind is that even if you reach just one, you have completed your assignment. You have done you are successful in that, and you've done what God has called you to do. So whether it's 1 or 1,000, show up and turn on, and eventually you will see that God will increase your influence and your territory. He'll enlarge your territory. A lot of times we're asking to reach 10,000 people, right? But we're not even faithful and committed. It goes back to operating on your level. You're not even committed to the 10 people that God has put in front of you. Hello? All right. Number 35. You don't get anything you aren't prepared for. There's a meme that I see sometimes. It says, I didn't start getting the things I prayed for until I became a person who should receive them, or something like that. And it's true. God's not going to give you things that you're unprepared for. the desires that you've allowed him to place in your heart that you now want, that you now covet. There's a specific thing that I know God gave me because it was never on my mind. And so now, I pray about it. And when he first gave it to me back in 2017, I was like, oh yes, this is going to happen. Going back to that God's timing, right? I was like, this is going to happen. This is going to happen. But I now understand in 2020, looking back, if God would have given that to me then, I would have blown it. God is not interested in you blowing anything. He wants this to be sustainable. Whatever that blessing is, he wants you to sustain it and to stay there and rest there and live there. Your promised land is supposed to be a paradise that you settle into. He's not going to give you something you're not prepared for. All right. Number 36. If you pour in any shape or form, you need to be filled. This is to all my people who pour. And you can pour in so many ways. You can be an educator. You can be a doctor. You can be on a podcast. You can write books. You can be a motivational speaker. You can be an encourager. You can be a mom, okay, or a dad or a grandparent. However you're pouring, if you pour in any shape, form, or fashion, you must be filled. Going back to, you got to fill up every day on God's word. Don't try to be out here just giving and never replenishing yourself. What are you listening to? What are you watching? What are you reading? You need to fill yourself up. Number 37. We all have so much untapped greatness inside of us. If you think you know who you are today, you know the sum total of who God created you to be, you don't. You have no idea. And God is just waiting for you to continue to unwrap gifts. But again, going back to using what you have to get to the next level, until you've unwrapped this gift, whatever this gift is for you, and you begin to use it, you don't really get to unwrap the next one. And so it's so much greatness that's untapped in you. What you don't want to do is die with all of that potential and that greatness inside of you. The goal is to die empty. You want to die used up. Number 38, my blackness is problematic for some people. And honestly, it is what it is. And I've learned that very young in age. I don't know if I've ever shared it on here, but I was in an all-white school at a very young age, and I've experienced racism very early on. And I learned then, probably not to the magnitude that I understand it now, but I understood then that my blackness is problematic for some. What do I do about it? I don't care. I don't care. And you shouldn't care either. You keep on moving through this earth and doing the things that God has called you to do. Number 39, you can literally learn something new every day. You learn something new every day. My mom used to say this to me all the time when I was younger. You learn something new every day. And this has been amazing. I love that I get to soak up information and I learn something, and it may be something small or something funny or something interesting or something very profound, but I am thirsty for knowledge, and you should be too. And last but not least, number 40, everyone dies, but not everyone lives. And I actually stole that line from Nicki Minaj and Drake, A Moment for Life. That's what it's called. And that's Drake's line. He said, I'm just trying to make it more than what it is, because everyone dies, but not everyone lives. I think that is so profound, because we're all going to die. And we know that. That was the only thing that was promised when we made our entrance on this earth, that we were going to die. There would be a death date. Everyone dies, but is everyone living? Are you living? Are you thriving? Or are you just surviving? And again, I know this has been a tough year. And so for many of you, just surviving is enough. And I'm not going to try to pull you out of that prematurely, because sometimes surviving is just enough. But surviving is not the plan that God has for your life overall. He said that he came that you may have life and have that more abundantly. God wants you to live an abundant life. And so if you are in a place where you are not thriving, where you are not living, you're just simply going along to get through day to day, I really encourage you to get the help that you need so that you can get out of that place, because that is not where God intends for you to reside. That's not your promised land. That's not your paradise, okay? So again, I just wanted to share with you guys 40 gems, 40 nuggets of game that I have picked up along the way. I pray that it's a blessing to you. I'm at 48 minutes, so I'm going to hop off for here because I don't like long episodes. Y'all know that about me. I'm always trying to get it in, get it out, and get up out of here, right? But again, understand that God puts us up on that good game because he loves us and he wants us to win. And so I pray that, these 40 gems, if it's something that you are not doing right now, I pray that at least one of those really resonated with you and you take it and apply it and you come back. Don't be an information hoarder. Don't just write down 40 things and never apply them to your life. Like, figure out how they work for you. Chew the meat and spit out the bones, okay? I love you guys, and I will be back on our regular day Wednesday. We have a very special episode. I can't wait for you guys to hear this. We have a special guest coming on next Wednesday. You want to tune into this. All right. I love you guys. I'll see you soon. It's your girl, Kristen R. Harris, and I'm out. Bye. Thank you so much for tuning in for another episode of God Put Me Up on Game. Make sure you follow us on social media at God Put Me Up on Game and at Kristen R. Harris. We'll see you next week.